For my family's next breakfast at the Disneyland Hotel, I went and got food for all of us from the coffee house, which is like right by the Fantasia shop. I just had a very light breakfast. I think this was like some kind of cheese Danish. It was pretty good. And they also had Mickey-shaped gingerbread cookies. So since we went to Disneyland Park yesterday, we decided to switch things up and go inside of California Adventure Park for today. Considering that it was December and freezing, especially for us little Hawaii folks, there was no way we were gonna go on the Grizzly River Run ride. But the first ride we ended up going on was the Little Mermaid ride for my little 2-year-old niece. Since I had only been to Disneyland when I was an older kid and I thought all of these dark rides were, just for the little babies, I've never been on the Little Mermaid ride before, so this was really cool to see. It's crazy how all of these animatronics and all kinds of screens are just surrounding you the whole time. And overall, I just thought it was a cute ride. But after that, we headed more towards Pixar Pier, which is actually the first time I've ever seen Pixar Pier. The last time we had ever been to Disneyland was in 2018 when they were still doing construction on Pixar Pier. So this was really cool to see, the finished project in person. Overall, I would say Pixar Pier, it's a cute little skin of like this bay area that they've had before in Disneyland. All of the cute little Pixar decorations like the ball on the umbrella and whatnot. I do hope they do more with like sort of the Pixar theming of this area because I love Pixar. I want Pixar injected into my veins. So I hope they do more where like it really feels like you're in sort of a Pixar area. And because Pixar Pier was still under construction the last time I came here, I had never been on the Incredicoaster yet. And pretty much all I can say is like I love the Incredicoaster or California Screamin'. I just love roller coasters in general. I think the new Incredibles theming of this roller coaster is, it's very low key. You do get this little video that plays while you're in the queue, which is really fun. But throughout the actual roller coaster, I don't know, you just kind of see all of the Incredibles characters just kind of plastered on the walls and whatnot. I wish it was a little bit more in depth, but I don't know. Either way, I just like the roller coaster part of it. I'm such an adrenaline junkie, so I love roller coasters like these. But after we spent some time in Pixar Pier, we ended up getting lunch from Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta, which was basically like a little, I guess, cafeteria style place where you could get pizza and salads and whatnot. And the food was pretty good. We would actually end up coming back to this restaurant a couple times throughout the trip just for like a quick and easy way to get a meal. But while we were sitting there, the little parade came by, which was really cool to see as we were eating lunch. There were a lot of sort of, I guess, Mexican events happening throughout California Adventure, which is really cool to see, that kind of representation there. So, that makes me happy. In any case, we continued walking around. We were looking for a bathroom with like a baby changing area for my little 2-year-old niece, but we couldn't find one. So we were just like walking aimlessly around through San Francisco. Also my first time ever seeing this area, so that was actually kind of cool. And from there, we pretty much just walked straight into Cars Land. I love Cars Land. Like when I was a kid, Cars was my favorite movie ever. I collected all of the die-cast toys and I just loved Cars, the movie. So I always get a kick whenever we come through here and, we got to see Lightning McQueen in person. What an absolute legend. We also went on the Luigi's Joy to the World ride since it was Christmas time. The baby got a kick out of that, so that was really fun. We ended up going on that ride also a couple of times. And from Cars Land, we walked straight into Avengers Campus, which was really cool to see in person. Again, since the last time I came to Disneyland was in 2018, I had never seen any of this newer stuff. So cool, you see all the Avengers walking around. Everything just looks so big and, it's just so cool to walk through the actual Avengers campus here. And then as we were walking through here, I struck a miracle and was actually able to get a fast pass for Guardians of the Galaxy. And none of my other family members like these sort of like thrilling rides, so I went on by myself. I did actually get to go on this ride the last time we were here, but still, I love going on this ride so much. You get to see the little rocket running around the room, like it's so funny. But they did such a good job at theming this ride around Guardians after it was Tower of Terror. So I love this ride so much. But after that, we headed out of California Adventure Park and went into Disneyland Park for our Fantasmic dining package. But first, since my niece fell asleep and we had some time to kill, we decided to go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Because once again, the last time we came to Disneyland, they were still building Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, so I was super duper excited to go. It was so cool, even the trash cans are Star Wars themed. But like all of the ships, you know, all of the scenery and everything, they're so big and massive, like it just doesn't feel real. And they really did a good job at sort of capturing the grittiness of Star Wars. There were stormtroopers walking around. I got so scared because I had seen videos of the stormtroopers like calling out people who were taking videos or pictures of them. I was so scared. But since we were in Galaxy's Edge, we decided to go on the Rise of the Resistance ride. It's an extra $20 to $30 to get a lightning lane for this ride. We figured it was worth paying for it just to be able to go on the ride without having to wait crazy amounts of time. And holy cannoli, is this ride so cool. Like, there's so much hype about this ride, and I think the ride totally lives up to all of the hype. Once again, everything kind of follows the theme mainly of the sequel trilogy. We got to see a hologram of Rey, and I got so excited because I love Daisy Ridley. What an absolute legend. But as we're going through the queue, you know, there's a bunch of Star Wars things, you know, X-Wings and all kinds of stuff. So cool. I love being able to see BB-8 in person. I forget if this is actually Akbar or if this is a different fish person, but this was a really cool prop. Like, it was cool to see it like right in front of us and like it was talking to us. They do a really good job at, you know, just making you feel immersed in this world. You can see here like the ship starts shaking and everything starts going crazy. Like, it was wild. And then of course, you know, everybody posts about this when they go to Disneyland, but this giant room with a bunch of TIE fighters and stormtroopers, it's so crazy. Like, it looks so cool. I felt like I was John Boyega running through this First Order ship. And then of course there's this part with, you know, all of the First Order people, and I think someone was laughing or something and the guy was like, do you think this is a time to be smiling or something like that? Like, they do such a good job at staying in character. It's crazy. And then of course we get to see Daddy Kylo Ren. This was so cool. They do like the cutout of the door. Like, everything about this ride is so cool. The fact that just waiting in line can feel like an experience for this ride, I think they really just did a good job with making this ride feel like you're a part of this journey. Then after Rise of the Resistance, we walked around more through Galaxy's Edge, just kind of looking at all the stuff around. And holy cannoli, we made our way to the Millennium Gosh Dang Darn Falcon. I was so excited. Like, I love seeing this in person. And funnily enough, like most of the time we were there, it was very easy to get a lightning lane for the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run ride. I mean, once again, just going through the queue itself is so cool. All of the animatronics, and then you go into the actual, like, what feels like the Millennium Falcon straight out of Star Wars The Force Awakens. I felt like Harrison Ford was gonna pop through this corner at any moment. So cool, and I just loved it. It was so much fun. Now, the ride is very kind of different and interesting in that it's sort of like a team-based activity ride. It was me and my brother, and we were paired up with two other pairs of people. I believe me and my brother were both like the gunners. There were two people behind us doing, I forget, some other stuff. And then it was this older couple driving the Millennium Falcon. And oh my goodness, this poor lady, I guess she must have just been overwhelmed and like, you know, maybe she doesn't like rides that much. But at one point she was straight up just like covering her face with her eyes because she didn't want to be a part of the ride. And so we were just crashing into everything. Like, there was absolutely no steering. So it kind of made me realize that, yeah, I feel like maybe a lot of your enjoyment of the ride would probably come from, you know, how hard people actually try at their jobs. But no disrespect or anything. I think regardless, I still had fun. I actually thought it was really funny. Just the fact that this kind lady, you know, was just covering her face the whole time and we were just crashing into everything imaginable. But once we got out of the ride, I wanted to get some pictures by the Millennium Falcon because, you know, I was just so excited. I love this ship. I asked the actual Disney park people, and the guy who was taking my picture made me pose, and I was very embarrassed. I don't do well doing poses for photos. Ew, I hate looking at these pictures. I look so dumb. But finally, after exploring Galaxy's Edge, we went to our Fantasmic dining package, and we got the River Belle Terrace standard package, which is in Adventureland, kind of near where Fantasmic takes place. When it came to actually dining at the River Belle Terrace, it was pretty straightforward and simple. I gave my name and the kind host had my reservation, seated us, and it was really simple. It came with a 3-course meal. I got this chicken pot pie soup, which was actually surprisingly very good. I wasn't sure about it just because it doesn't look like the most appealing dish, but actually trying it, like, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It was pretty good. It basically tasted like exactly how it sounds, a chicken pot pie in a soup. Then I had the barbecue burnt ends pasta. Once again, surprisingly very good. I wasn't sure about it going into it. It was a little bit spicy, like it definitely had a kick to it, but still it was like very, very good. And then finally I had the red velvet cake. If I'm not mistaken, the Riverbell Terrace does a lot of like pecan types of dishes, so it was very interesting, but yeah, from what I remember, it was a little bit dry, but still, cake is cake and I love sweets. But after we had our dinner, we still had some extra time before Fantasmic actually started, so I was lucky enough to snag us some lightning lanes for Pirates of the Caribbean. This is always a really fun ride to go on. I don't know if it's just me, but from what I remember from this ride, the drop always felt like pretty big. But I recently watched a YouTube video of Pirates of the Caribbean in night vision, and it turns out the drop isn't even that big. I don't know why, it always just like felt really big to me. But in any case, you know, really cool to see pirates. And then 1 hour before Fantasmic started, we were able to go and sit down in our designated area. The Fantasmic dining package comes with a meal at one of the restaurants near the Fantasmic area. And then at least for the standard packages, you're able to get like a reserved area where you just sit on the ground and then watch Fantasmic. So it's a method where if you want to pay to get a secured spot to watch Fantasmic, since we had my 2-year-old niece with us, we didn't want to bother with, you know, the possibility of getting a bad spot during Fantasmic or anything like that. There's a different area to sit down depending on which restaurant's dining package you end up getting. The Riverbell Terrace one was pretty good because it's pretty much like right in the middle. I will say that sitting down on the hard floor for the duration of Fantasmic did end up making my legs and my butt hurt. So if you're planning on doing this, definitely bring like a cushion of some kind to sit on. You know, it's kind of a trade-off getting the Fantasmic dining package because you are required to sit down throughout the entire show. And since you're sitting behind this little gate, it does make it kind of hard to see some of the stuff that's lower on the ground in the show. You're pretty much always going to have this fence in your way. So there are definitely pros and cons between getting the dining package or just standing up in whatever area you can find. In any case, you know, really cool to see Fantasmic. I honestly don't have too many memories of watching Fantasmic 2, so this felt like I was watching it for the first time. I also used my iPhone 16 Pro to shoot all of this video, and using the 5x telephoto lens was really, really good. I was able to get like really close into all of the action, which was like really crazy. The actual Fantasmic show was just super epic. It's so crazy to imagine that they put on this show so often. With all of like the water and all of the fireworks, all of the effects, it's so crazy. And overall, you know, I think the dining package is a premium cost. If you would rather just pay extra to get a designated seat rather than having to kind of fumble around to find your own standing area, I'd say it's mostly worth it. But of course, there is also the option of saving money and just scouting out your own place to stand. But what's really cool about watching Fantasmic is that we were able to stay right after and watch the fireworks show right from that same area. And rather than doing projections on the castle, they have these water projections kind of similar to what they do during Fantasmic. So this was actually a really cool place to watch the fireworks from. I will say it might not be as sort of photogenic as watching it from the castle, for example, or even from It's a Small World. I think this was a really cool place to watch the fireworks. My only tip is, like, especially if it's windy, don't stand too close to the front. We were just getting like constantly misted by this water and it was very cold. And at the end, they even blow the fake snow, so that was really cute. And finally, after Fantasmic, we decided to close out the park by going to It's a Small World once again. We literally went to It's a Small World like at least once every single day. And finally, we tried out the Disneyland monorail, which took us from Tomorrowland back to downtown Disney. From the few times we rode the monorail throughout our trip, it wasn't ever like super busy, so I think it's a nice way if you want to rest your legs especially. You can easily get from Tomorrowland back to downtown Disney, which was perfect for us to get back to the Disneyland hotel.